I'm gonna go for a quick run. And when I get back, I think we're gonna talk about what we did in Arkansas. I guess the first thing to talk about is why are we back in Arkansas? Because we just came through Arkansas about 2 months ago. We made a loop down to Florida, came back through Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, back into Georgia again for a little bit, and then Kentucky, which was an oddball, and that was explained in our last video, I think. So take a look at our Mammoth Cave video if you're interested in kind of why we went to Kentucky after northern Georgia. And now we're really close to Little Rock. So Little Rock is a couple of miles here. But we're back here on our way to, really en route to Texas to meet up with family, and then back to Colorado for a camping trip and then visit family, as well as go to Overland Mountain West, which is probably one of our favorite activities every year. All that loop, and then we've got to be back in the South in Alabama and then Florida before the beginning of October. So we're getting a little bit of work done on the Airstream, and we'll have more to come on that in future videos. For now, we are staying at Willow Campground at, I don't know what state park this is, Willow Beach, I think. Willow Beach Campground, or Willow Beach State Park, or something to that effect. It's Corps of Engineers site. I'm not gonna go into a thorough walkthrough like I have of other campgrounds, mostly just because this isn't a campground I would recommend as a long-term stay. I'll just quickly right now tell you we have 50 amp service, we have water on site, there's a dump station on the way out, and there's probably 3 miles worth of roads and walking kind of trails within the vicinity of the campground. Also, just like every other Corps of Engineers site we've been to, there's a boat ramp down here. I assume there's a dam somewhere in the area. And we back onto the lake, which I will show you. And I can't tell you I have a good recommendation for a long-term stay in the Little Rock area. While we're in Little Rock, we did a couple of, I would say, local things or things to do locally. The number one and probably the most interesting thing we did while we were here was visit Little Rock Central High School. Little Rock Central High School was the location of the first desegregation in Little Rock. I'm sure it wasn't the first in the country, but the first in Little Rock. The governor at the time decided that he was going to favor the segregationists and sent in the National Guard to stop 9 students from attending school. One of the really cool things, we did walk around the school a little bit. There are no exhibits, to my understanding, inside the school. So even if you do a walking tour or anything like that, they just take you around the outside of the campus. I'm gonna throw some pictures in here of the school itself. It is a beautiful school. It's just blocks away from the state capitol. But the exhibits themselves inside the visitor center were pretty incredible. So that was our first stop. And I would say by far one of the best stops we've had. I'm gonna stop for 2 seconds and I'm gonna say a common theme we're having with some of these national historical sites, national battlegrounds, and those types of kind of national parks, or those types of locations managed by the National Park Service, is that the free ones tend to be our favorite. So Little Rock Central High School is a free exhibit, or free to enter, free to walk around. Chickamauga was also free to walk around. And so what we're finding is the stuff that's free is almost more exciting, more interesting than anything else. I'm not gonna give the whole story of Little Rock Central High School. What I am gonna say is the governor called in the National Guard to stop these 9 students from entering the high school. The president, Dwight Eisenhower, federalized the National Guard, as well as sent in the 101st Airborne to protect these 9 students and allow them to attend school. That doesn't mean that it was easy for those students that year, and there's reference to everything that kind of was hard about going to school there for them. But suffice to say, it was kind of an interesting exhibit. I would absolutely recommend, if you were in the Little Rock area, stop by and do that. We drove by the state capitol. We didn't stop and walk around or anything, mostly because we were hungry and wanted to get something to eat. So we stopped at Lost 40 Brewing. which is also kind of downtown. It's less than half a mile from the Bill Clinton National Library. So we did stop there. We've been drinking their beer in, I guess, while we've been here. We picked up like a mixed 12-pack. They've got some really good, like a decent IPA, and I'm not an IPA fan. Their Hell's is very good. Anyway, pretty good beer. So we stopped there, we ate lunch. I had their chicken wings, which I would tell you 100% buy their chicken wings. They are amazing. Emily had their pizza, and I've had some leftover of that. Again, 100% buy it. It's wonderful, it's delicious. From Lost 40, we went over to the Clinton Library. And I'm gonna tell you, if you are in the Little Rock area and looking for something to do, even if you love Bill Clinton, I wouldn't recommend it because the cost to get in is $12, and I don't think it was worth $12. You won't see any video or pictures from that visit, maybe just from the outside, because they have a strict policy of no photos, no video. For basically, you can have it, but it's for personal use only. And so I'm gonna take them at their word, and I'm not gonna post anything other than maybe the sign that's outside. They had the presidential limo from Clinton's time in office, which it feels like a step back in history, even though this thing was made in 1993, which I guess is still 30 years ago. So we looked at that. They had a reproduction of the cabinet room as it was when Bill Clinton was the president. Interesting, he had, at the end there's two portraits, and then on the other side, there's two busts. For the two portraits, the one on the left would have been Teddy Roosevelt, which is really cool, is an interesting painting. And the one on the right was George Washington. And I think they called it George Washington, the statesman. We both kind of, I think you recognize who it is, but he is painted as young, and you're not used to seeing a young George Washington. So that was interesting. The two busts on the other side, one is Ben Franklin and the other without his glasses on. Interesting. And then the other was George Washington. The cabinet room was interesting. I took a seat in the president's chair. It was just something that I noticed as we were kind of looking at the room. The president's chair is slightly higher, and it's centered between the two flags, the presidential seal as well as the American flag. We walked the exhibits. The exhibits are interesting. They're kind of broken out by year. They have a sample of the president's schedule from every year, so a little bit like a couple of days from every year. And you kind of look at it and you go, okay, so he went to work at 7 a.m. and he finished work at 7 p.m. and he had to do these things, and interesting, but not amazing. Anyway, the last thing on the tour, as you get to the third floor on the very, I'm gonna call it south side of the building, is a replica of the Oval Office as it was when Bill Clinton was president. So, a couple things about it. Number one, you can't walk in there unless you buy a photo package from them. A photo package sending you digital photos is $15. This is another just kind of blows your mind. $15 to get a digital photo in a replica of the Oval Office. Anyway, I'm not gonna hang on the negatives of it. It was interesting, but probably won't be doing it anymore. Other than that, we've kind of been spending our time here at the campground. We have walked around as much as we can, get the dogs out a couple miles, probably 4 miles a day with the dogs. Emily is kind of coming down with something right now. And tomorrow morning, we are heading off to, I think it's Eufaula Lake or Lake Eufaula. One's in Alabama, one's in Oklahoma. We're going to the one in Oklahoma for basically a week there. So we'll be there Wednesday through Monday or Tuesday, I think. We're pretty excited to be heading west a little bit more. So we'll stay in Oklahoma before heading off to Texas, North Texas, and then heading down to see family. I'm just gonna give you this little view here of, I literally washed the Airstream in North Georgia, so about a week ago. And this is all the bird poop we have collected on the Airstream since we got here. It is everywhere and all over this side. So I'll be washing that again once we get to Oklahoma. I'm gonna leave it here with a quick note on Starlink. You can see our northern sky here. Not bad. When we get to a family member's house, we're gonna stay there for a week. I'm actually gonna be installing the smart plug next to our smart plug power to kind of pipe internet into the Airstream. So I'll be doing that, as well as hanging the power brick and router inside the bedroom. For us, that's kind of the best location for us inside the 27-foot Flying Cloud front bed. Anyway, that's it from Little Rock. We are heading up to Oklahoma next. Hope you'll stick with us and see what we're doing next.